Welcome to Is It Covered, where we break down real stories and answer the big question, is it covered? Hosted by father and son duo Bruce and Brian Chapman of the J.D. Chapman Insurance Agency. This podcast will help you navigate the world of insurance with stories, tips, and answers that really matter. From personal to commercial coverage, we've got you covered. Now, let's get started.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Is It Covered, the podcast sponsored by J.D. Chapman, where we break down everything claims and claims related. As always, we do suggest that if you do have a claim, to speak with your broker or to speak with your specific carrier. Every claim is very specific depending on the actual event itself. Bruce and I are really excited about this one. As you can see, we've got some guests here with us today. We've got the folks from Rochester Restoration with us. We met you guys at a continuing education event that you put on for anybody that's listening that's an insurance agent. They did a good job with that. And you guys gave a great presentation about you and your company. And it got Bruce and I thinking, wow, we have a lot of commonality here between what you do dealing with insurance companies, claims, and what that looks like. So what I'll do is I'll turn it over to you guys. If you guys want to let us know a little bit about who you are, what your company does, maybe how you're founded, that type of thing. I'm sure we'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having us, too. It's great to be here. We're really excited. I'll turn it over to Chris to start off.
Yes, Bruce and Brian, thanks for having us. My name is Chris Muoio, the co-owner of Rochester Restoration. I am the operations and production manager for all claims, big and small, for the emergency mitigation services and also our reconstruction division too. I've been in the industry for 22 years, particularly in fire damage rebuilds for 22 years.
So you guys can do it all then?
Yeah, start to finish.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And then kind of my favorite part of the industry is seeing the projects from start to finish and seeing the homeowner's face when they get to move back into their house, and
absolutely,
and it's better than before. And
that's got to be a big day for everybody.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, so that's kind of my role in the company.
Nice. You're the guy keeping it all on track.
Do you do like a big reveal? Like on TV?
Like HGTV.
Yeah, right.
No, not really. We usually keep the homeowner involved pretty thoroughly. Yeah, no surprises.
Okay. And I'm Dayna Muoio. I'm a co-founder with Chris, and I manage our customer relationships and our internal operations. So I kind of make sure that everybody that we're working with has a good experience. I build with our team strategic partnerships throughout the industry, and just make sure that everybody is on the same page, communicating, having a great experience. And then in addition to that, I kind of keep things running behind the scenes as far as our team, our HR, our marketing, our finance, kind of a little bit of everything.
Holding it all together.
Yeah, holding it all together.
You wear all kinds of hats.
That's how it goes as a small business owner. So
absolutely.
We love it though. It's really great. So I came into the industry with Chris. My background really was in marketing, corporate, and working for corporate, completely different than what it is now. Yeah. But we really kind of saw an opportunity to kind of make a difference in this industry and to create a one-stop solution for homeowners and property owners. What we were seeing as Chris was doing the rebuilds when we were a rebuild-only company was that there was kind of a gap for homeowners in tying everything together. They would have to hire one contractor for the cleanup, and then they would hire another contractor for the construction, which was us at the time. But we really wanted to make it easier for them to work with one person all the way through and have somebody that can do both well. So we knew with our construction background, we had that down, and then we brought on a team of experts, really, knowledgeable in the mitigation side and the emergency services side. And we're really happy to be able to kind of provide that one-stop one-stop-shop experience for homeowners and business owners, residential and
Oh,
commercial.
absolutely. Having that streamlined process must be such a nice thing because you can control the whole aspect from start to finish, and your customers are working with one person or one company the whole time, I would imagine. So that's huge. That's nice.
And it's good for us as agents, too, to be able to say, here are the
Yes.
people that are going to be handling you from start to finish.
Absolutely. And now you guys are family owned and operated too, or?
We are, yeah. Chris and I are sole owners, and we started the company, so it wasn't kind of we didn't step into it. It was from the ground up. We started out really small, just the two of us, and gradually we built and added more to our team.
That's awesome.
We're continuing to grow, so it's a really exciting time for us.
That's a big lift, starting a company from scratch.
Yes.
I'm sure you're aware.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Real entrepreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to kind of break this episode down into this series down into two different episodes. We'll kind of talk about fire and fire mitigation and what you guys do there, and then we'll have another episode that we're kind of talking about the flood and flood mitigation. So really, Bruce always says to people, so you have a fire, now what? Can you give us some ideas on like what some types of fires are that you've seen, or what the kind of standard is when you guys are kind of coming into a scene? What does that all look like for you?
Yeah, it's very emotional for everyone involved. We've really seen it all, we like to say. It's never the same thing twice.
Not cookie cutter?
Not cookie cutter.
Right.
So, from large commercial fires and apartment buildings to just small cooking fires, electrical fires, we've kind of just seen the span of all different sizes, all different causes. There's been a lot of interesting causes. Really common is electrical fires, cooking fires, we've seen a few interesting ones too, kind of animal mishaps and things like that people.
Yeah, the dog's jumping on the stove top to get the pizza and starts the pizza box on fire. And
oh boy, that's a tough one. Yeah.
So as far as claim scenarios, we don't even need our gavel this time because these are claims that should be covered. They're fire claims.
Yeah,
There's
unless
no
you start
issue
the fire
there.
yourself.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. No burning your own place down. That's not acceptable. And as Brian was alluding to, you've seen so many different types of fires. Is there one in particular that would be a good example of what your services are and how you handled that?
Yeah, so we had a fire, a residential fire that started out because of a electrical malfunction on the homeowner's stove. So there happened to be a recall on the stove that she wasn't aware of. She was out of the house at the time, and the stove had caught on fire, the electrical components of it, and it really did. It did damage to our entire house. The fire and smoke spread throughout the entire home. It required a full mitigation and rebuild. So we kind of took that from start to finish.
There must be a lot of water damage too from the fire department.
Yeah, there is. I mean, a fire job is usually a combination of fire, water, sometimes mold, sometimes asbestos remediation. So it really encompasses a lot. Usually it's not just a fire.
Not cut and dry.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot more that comes with it. So it's really important to be well versed in how to handle all of those things and making sure you're working with a company that understands that process. So with that fire, the first thing that she did was she called her insurance agent and asked the insurance agent what to do. And they
hopefully she called the fire department first.
Yes, after that. She actually, interestingly enough, she was a 911 dispatcher. So
no
she
kidding.
was working overnight at the 911 dispatch center. And the fire happened, and a neighbor happened to see it and called in.
Oh, my goodness.
I don't think she took the call, but she got word of it through where she was. So which was lucky. She was able to get to it pretty quickly. But yeah. The first thing is always making sure that you're safe. Call 911. Make sure everybody's out of the house. Taking care of your family and your loved ones, your property and your belongings can wait. It's really
Absolutely.
taking care of yourself is the most important thing. So, that's number one. Number two, I would say calling an emergency services company like ours to really get the process started as soon as possible to minimize further damage. And then the third call would be to your insurance agent to talk through coverage and get that process started.
And when we get calls like that, the first thing we say, it's same as you, is make sure you're safe and you can do anything you need to prevent any further damage. So we're on the same page.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's our number one goal too. Our job is to preserve as much property as we can and prevent further damage. So
absolutely,
that's the first thing we're doing within the first 24 hours on site.
Nice. Yeah, I know that it's when somebody gets into a situation like that, it's like a pretty highly emotional type of a thing. So I don't, you know, your first thought is, okay, is everybody safe? And then I don't think a lot of times people are like, well, I had a fire, now what? Who do I call? And I think that's where some of the synergy comes into place, is we'll tell people to call an emergency service and do anything they can to mitigate that damage.
Yeah.
And we tell people all the time from an insurance aspect, save your receipts, you know, just whatever you've got to do to you know, keep that situation to a minimum. So after they've maybe made a call to you guys, they say, hey, I've had a fire, and you guys come out, can you take us through a little bit about like what your restoration or mitigation process looks like?
Sure. Yeah. Well, like I mentioned, first thing first is making sure the property is secure. So if it's not already boarded up, we take care of that. Making sure that the home, if it's a large fire, usually the electricity has been turned off, the power is turned off, the heat may be turned off, and if it's in the middle of winter, that can cause frozen pipes. So we take care of making sure that there's power and that the home is winterized if needed. Just making sure that the damage doesn't continue to get worse. And then after that point, we go through and we do a complete damage inspection. So we go through the entire building. We document thoroughly with photo, video. We have a 360 video software that we do that can kind of walk you through the property virtually. So that's really helpful for everyone involved, but importantly, it's helpful for the insurance company. So they're not always the first ones on site. We're typically the ones getting there first. So if we can provide that to them, it gives them a really good understanding of what they're working with and what they're coming into.
That's so important.
So you're starting to document before an adjuster even gets on the scene then?
Yes. Yeah.
That's they must love that fact.
They do appreciate it. They do their own documentation as well, but a lot of times they'll ask us to go out and get eyes on it first, and we give them kind of the rundown of what's happening there, and they appreciate that heads up before they walk into the claim.
Documentation is probably the biggest thing that is, like, I know a lot of homeowners, you know, they might get overwhelmed. I had so many things in my kitchen. I had so much stuff here, there, and the other place. And it seems like that's helpful for you to be able to start to work with them to provide a list of things that were in the home and damaged. And
Yep. Our team can go through and take a full inventory of all of the items that were damaged. We categorize them into things that can be restored and things that can't be. And we also work with the homeowner to prioritize things that may be essential, like clothing for the next week or uniforms for work. Or if you have an event coming up, there are things that you want to make sure that you have within the next 24 hours. We work with a great textile partner that can handle all of that and make sure that they have clothing and things that they need for right away. Even, you wouldn't think, but even in the winter coats, hats, gloves, like those types of things you want to make sure that you have right away.
For sure.
So you have this fire, and this is one of Brian's favorite terms that I use. You go in the kitchen, right? And you have all these plastic utensils. If there is a drawer there, they might be just a big plastic gloppy mess. How do you determine like what's in there if it's all jumbled up and like that?
That's a good question. We do, we'll walk through it with the homeowner and we'll ask them what did you typically have in here? And we can generalize and just say there's plastic wrap and plastic silverware and those things. I mean, they're kind of a generic value.
Sure.
So we kind of put a general value on those things. We also work with the homeowner a lot to let us know what the value of certain things are. So it's tip for anyone listening, it's always a good idea to kind of walk through your property before something happens.
Yes.
Once a year, just take a video of everything in your home, and so that you have a record of what's there. Because when you're going back and thinking about what was in the room after a disaster, it might be hard to remember all of
Excellent
that.
idea.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's great advice. Absolutely. Yep.
But you help them with that whole pricing process and everything?
Yeah, we do. We're able to put that all together in a really kind of organized format, and it's a back and forth. So we'll put some values in there, and then they'll go through it, and they'll say
Right.
if something needs to change, and we work with them back and forth on that.
You guys showed us at the event that we were at some pretty cool devices and things that you were using to either look at like hotspots, or it seems like you guys got quite a bit of technology that seems to aid you in that process. Is that something that's like used on every site, or is it kind of like a per claim scenario of what you'll need to use in terms of your equipment and stuff?
Yeah, we've got a whole tool chest of so we are able to pick and choose what we need based on the situation. Typically because there's always water involved, we have infrared moisture cameras that allow us to see behind walls where there's moisture.
That's cool.
We have moisture meters because water isn't always visible with the naked eye, so we're able to use our tools to detect water that might be hiding behind walls or underneath floors.
Yeah, we have ozone generators, hydroxyl generators, air scrubbers that we would use.
And these are getting the smoke smell out of the house?
Yeah, and then the air scrubber would help clean the air, to help filter out the particulates from the air.
What about clothes and stuff? I mean, smoke just permeates everything. So do you have like special washing machines and special, like maybe a chamber to put furniture and things like that in to get rid of that smoke smell?
Yeah, we do handle the furniture and the soft goods, and then we also work with we partner with a specialty restoration dry cleaner. So
cool.
they have a full facility where they mitigate that odor using ozone chambers and special dry cleaning processes. So they do a fantastic job. So we kind of recommend that to the homeowner. But we also we do soft goods like furniture, carpets, area rugs, things like that. We'll do that in-house, and we do the same thing with ozone chambers and,
awesome.
and things like that.
So then after you've kind of got a handle on the situation and what's going on, it sounds like you're working with the insurance adjuster at some point in time with them kind of hand in hand to take a client through whatever the scenario might be. What are some good, I guess, tips for people, or when they're working with the adjuster and working with you guys? Is there anything that you recommend that people do? I know you said take a video beforehand, but is there anything like, they can always rely on their agent too in their policy, but is there anything you recommend people do as they're working through that process, either with you or the adjuster? Or
the biggest thing really is communication. So we really like when property owners, we look at them as a partner with us in the claims process. So there's really the three people involved, and we are kind of the go-between between the property owner and the adjuster. But there's a lot of things that the property owner can do to make sure that their insurance company is being responsive and that they're clearly detailing what was in the property, and they're detailing their loss. So the more information that the homeowner can provide, the better. And we will assist them with that process. If there's something that needs to be done, we will make sure that they understand that.
And that's where we come in as agents too, is helping on the insurance side. If there's unresponsiveness or questions or things going on, issues,
Absolutely.
we try to, similar to what you all do, hand in hand and help people through that process. So
A lot of claims are preventable, right? Do you see things that like on a regular basis and you're thinking to yourself, if they had only done this to prevent that claim, they wouldn't have had a fire? I mean, do you guys see things that are common that maybe our customers or any person could do to prevent a catastrophic loss?
I do see extension cords. If you walk over an extension cord too many times, then it kind of breaks in the middle of it, but the rubber still holds it together. So it would be extension cords. It would be, or even extension cords plugged into high energy devices like dehumidifiers or space heaters. They really have to avoid doing some of those two.
I always see I've been to people's houses and they have the power strip.
Yeah.
And they've got like 5 or 6 different extension cords plugged into them, going to a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a fire waiting to happen. So like mitigating all that, having it kind of plugged into the right stuff.
Or you go to a party and there's like 6 different crock pots plugged into one of those.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at what point in this process, so you kind of got everything together, at what point in the process do you start the restoration phase of kind of building things back to, or the construction phase, building things back towards what it is?
So that comes after the cleaning and mitigation process. So we do the initial damage assessment, we build a restoration plan with the owner and the adjuster, and we execute that plan. So that's where we bring in all of our equipment, we're cleaning, we're removing odor from the air, from the surfaces. So basically after everything is clean and dry, it's prepped and ready for reconstruction. So at that point, if you're working with a contractor that is mitigation only, that's where they would stop, and you would hire another contractor to complete the rest. And not all contractors have insurance experience,
right?
So
right.
there's some difficulty there. So with us, before we're done with the mitigation, we're passing that on to our construction project managers, and they're getting the ball rolling with putting together a quote for the rebuild, working with the homeowner on selecting finishes and colors and things like that. And we're putting together a plan for rebuild before the mitigation is even done, so that right when it's done, we're able to get things going.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and there's a lot of back and forth between us and the insurance carrier. So we're making sure that everything that we're doing is within the guidelines of the policy, trying to make it as easy as possible for the homeowner, so that they're not, hopefully not having to come out of pocket for anything.
Right.
So once that process gets rolling, Chris is the master at that. It's a well-oiled machine. He's got everything lined up, ready to go, and it goes pretty quickly from there. And that's the exciting part, is kind of seeing that all come together.
Oh, sure. Some of those before and after photos you shared were like stunning. They were cool. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, usually with the construction process, we get started within a few days of, say there's a bad fire, we'll get started within a few days on documentation and starting to put together a scope of work and pricing that then we can kind of discuss with the adjuster, just to make sure that we're on the same page. And it makes the process go a little bit smoother if we jump on that quickly.
Sure.
I would think that would be a time where a lot of people would say, hey, you know what, I always wanted this granite countertop. And you obviously that upgrade's not going to be covered by insurance. So you would work with the insured and the adjuster and kind of with those details?
Yeah, we love doing that. I mean, it's a good way to turn a bad situation into something that's a little bit, fun for the homeowner. It's if you have to go through this, and it's a good opportunity to make those changes that you've always wanted to make. So, that is something that if it's not comparable to what they had before, it would be an out-of-pocket expense, but we love doing that. We can change layouts, we can build additions, so we can really kind of help with all of that.
That's awesome.
Phoenix from the fire.
That's right.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I know that a lot of times homeowners, when they go through this process, they get that initial check for the actual cash value, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's not enough for, that's not what my policy covered, or I thought I was getting a check for the full amount. But typically, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bruce, typically they get a check for the actual cash value portion of it, and then once the work and everything is completed, they've shown that everything's been mitigated and rebuilt, that's when the rest of that replacement cost comes
or they've
in.
replaced the contents that are destroyed.
Correct. Yep.
I always use the example of you had 5 televisions, which is not uncommon these days, and that you're really only going to replace 2. So they'll give you once you replace those, you get replacement additional check, but the others, you're just going to get the actual cash value for those.
Right. Yep. So the item has to be replaced.
Exactly.
Yep. And that can be confusing. I know in that sidetrack, but when that hailstorm happened, a lot of people were like, well, what the heck? This isn't a big enough check to replace my roof. And we had a lot of those conversations.
Right.
So
exactly.
That's something to certainly be aware of. So, I mean, that's got to be probably the most fun part of your job is the last part of kind of handing the keys back over to the person, and they've got this nice, new, beautiful home. I'm sure you see a lot of happy smiles at the end of that.
Yeah, that's the best part for us, is really just kind of seeing people, that stress is gone from the initial day that we arrived, and they're just feeling good about getting back to normal. And, we hope that we could just make a bad situation a little bit better for them. I think we have an after photo of the fire that I mentioned in the beginning. So there's, with that stove fire, that there was the electrical malfunction. You're able to see kind of where it started to where it ended. And that homeowner was very happy with the results. So that's the best for us. We love it.
Sure. Yeah.
This is maybe more water versus fire, because fire is always covered, and we'll talk about that, I guess, in a little bit. But people will call, they'll have a claim, and I'll tell people, even if it's not covered, you still have to deal with it. So you need to call someone to take care of that.
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately, these things are going to happen. So it's, we never like to wish for bad situations to happen, but it's good to have people that are available to take care of that for you. And
it's important to have the right insurance and coverage in place too, because, I'm sure maybe you've ran into it before working with folks. It's like, oh boy, I didn't either tell people that I had upgraded my kitchen, or my policy actually was written as an actual cash value versus replacement cost.
Yeah.
And that was never explained to them. And now there's a whole thing of confusion going on while they're trying to get everything restored and reconstructed.
Yeah, we have dealt with that before, unfortunately, and those things, they're sensitive situations, and we make sure that everyone is on the same page about what is and isn't going to be covered. I mean, that's the carrier's job to say what is and isn't going to be covered. But we're in those situations, we're able to work with the owner to find the most cost-effective way to take care of something, especially if it's coming out of their pocket.
And it's important when you're working with an insurance agent to even set up the policy. It's okay to ask questions and say, well, if I were to have this type of event, how does this respond? And I think that's a lot where
I love those questions.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a lot where you and I come in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that kind of takes us through the start to finish, so to speak, of what would happen. You have a fire, and now what happens? So we'll get into our next episode here in a little bit, talking about the flood. But before we close it, it sounds like some key takeaways would be to have good communication with both your agent and whatever restoration company that you use. Documentation on all sides. Is there any other key point that we should leave some listeners with, or?
I would say just making sure you're working with a contractor that you trust, especially when it's a large fire. You're going to have people coming to your door, knocking on your door, trying to get you to sign things. It's kind of just the nature of the game. We don't do that, and we recommend, it's overwhelming, it's a stressful situation. It's okay to take a day to breathe and think and get information before you sign anything. So we recommend just kind of taking your time in choosing a contractor that you trust and that will be working for you. Really.
That's great advice. Yeah, we've seen situations where people have gone with the most cut rate company that they could find, thinking that they're going to save a few bucks, and they're only kicking the can down the road to then have folks like you to maybe come back in and reconstruct some of that.
We had a situation where someone went with a low cost contractor who ended up going out of business before the job was done, and it cost them several thousands, tens of thousands of dollars more than they would have paid to go with a good, reputable contractor.
What a headache.
Yeah.
So before we close, give everybody a little bit of information on like where they could find you, or maybe where they could follow you to keep up to date on information, those types of things.
Yeah. So if they do need services, we're available 24/7. We have a 24/7 response line. We can probably put that up. It's 585-434-3436. We're on Facebook and Instagram. You can follow us there. We also have some great resources and tips for prevention of fire and water losses on our website, rochesterrestoration.com. So you can go there and get all the tips you need to make sure that these things don't happen to you. And we hope nothing ever happens to anyone. But if it does, we're here. We're ready to respond 24/7.
That's awesome. We have some material in our office as well from you guys. So if any of our listeners are stopping by the office, they're more than welcome to pick that up from us.
Awesome. Thank you.
So not only is it covered, but now we know how it's covered.
Yeah, and we know what happens afterwards,
That's right,
That's
yeah.
kind of the people think the insurance just ends like, oh, claim, paid
Right.
out, but there's a lot more to it. So.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Well, thank you for your knowledge. Thank
Yes.
you for all your advice on everything. We'll wrap this one up. If anybody ever has any claim scenarios or questions for Rochester Restoration or ourselves, you can always email me directly, brian@jdchapmaninc.com, or you can reach out to Rochester Restoration as well. I think that wraps it up for this episode, and we'll see everybody on the next one.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks for listening to the Is It Covered podcast. To learn more about how JD Chapman can assist you with all your insurance needs, please visit our website at jdchapmaninc.com or call us at 315-986-4062. JD Chapman, we've got you covered. This podcast provides general information only. It does not offer or bind insurance coverage. Coverage cannot be changed or confirmed through this podcast, email, voicemail, or fax. Insurance only takes effect once confirmed by a licensed agent. For specific coverage details, please call us at 315-986-4062. All coverages are subject to the terms, conditions, and exclusions of the issued policy, which may vary by state. This podcast does not provide legal, tax, or financial advice. Please consult a professional for those needs. Links to other sites are provided for convenience. We don't control or endorse their content. Any claims scenarios discussed are hypothetical. Coverage decisions depend on the specifics of each case.